everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rosie Speaks. Today I have Kungund and Ramvoldus, whose names I don't ever think I pronounce correctly, but I'm going to pretend like I do.
You're good.
And they are members of the Barony of Drybergen, which my parents are the Baron and Baroness for currently. And I wanted to have them on because they are raising two wonderful small children, and they are incredibly active in the SCA. So like everybody has their different versions of like what is active and then what is like really active. Well, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, my mother comes home from and I think it was an all thing, which is something our barony has every what is it, once a month on Mondays.
Once a month.
And she comes home and she says, "We have a new baby." And I wasn't sure how to respond to that immediately. And it took me, I think my mom had to got to like see and get to know you guys probably 4 or 5 times before I understood what she meant. So my baby is Jeff, not Jeff. I am sorry. I'm gonna drink because I'm really bad at that. Well, my baby is Kungund and Ramvoldus' youngest, and she is just the tiniest and most adorable little thing ever, who's actually really not tiny at all anymore, but still quite adorable. So hi, you guys. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So we're in a different location tonight. This is inside my house. We're inside my house because during recording it's super late, and we have these really obnoxious birds outside who start screaming at about 8:45. So we can't record outside because the birds are yelling. So that was a funny adventure. I just recently had to, we're starting the process of moving. So everything's sort of rearranged. And so trying to find a space in our room was like, how am I going to do this? What are we doing here? All right. And then I figured it out, and it's really cute because I have like my little dinosaur here. This is a sword that Brandon bought at Great West. These roses over here actually came from an event that I went to up in the West. They have this tradition where once you're out of a tournament, you can go fight on what's called the Roses field. And basically it's like a secondary tournament for the people who are no longer in the primary tournament. And the victors, or like whoever wins the bouts in the Roses field gets to have their opponent give a flower to their person of choice. And so we went up to the West with a friend of ours, and I came back with like 15 roses or something like that. And because Kaid doesn't do that, doesn't have that tradition here, they just live hanging up on my wall. So that's a fun tour of my new space. And on that note, I'm going to ask you my first question. How did each of you find the SCA?
I think I was first.
I found it through you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were big Ren Fair heads, and we'd go to the Ren Fair. I've been going to the Ren Fair since I was like 16. And then at some point the Ren Fair just kind of became, I felt more like a customer than a participant. And I said, there's got to be something else, out there to do. And I found the SCA on the internet and went, hey, wow, this is really interesting. And we came into it, and then I drug her into it because she's like, no, we have kids, we can't do this. I was like, no, these other people have kids too, we can do this. Like, it's a family oriented thing, it's like a community, like, this isn't like going to Ren Fair and like spending money. This is totally different. And that's what we were looking for. That's kind of what I needed in my life, was something to get involved in. And with the Ren Fair, it's very like specific. You join these like guilds and you have to do the guild thing, and it's very doctrinated, and they tell you what to wear and how to talk and how to act. And in the SCA, you have this choice of over like 1,000 years where you can be a Viking or you can be a Elizabethan or whatever. And I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I drug her into it. Pretty much drug her into it.
Well, we got involved 10 years ago, and we attended because we've always made stuff. That's our thing. We make stuff, and like we don't have a dining room table. We have a crafting room table, and it's got deer hides and beads. And if you want to eat at the table, it's going to take us a half hour to clear
for a meal. Way so you can.
Yeah, we've always like made stuff and crafted, and we've been into history. Like we did a reenactment wedding, and we love to dress up, and we love to time travel. So we attended Highland War like 10 years ago, and we loved it. But then we bought a house, and then we had kids and changed jobs and did all kinds of stuff, disappeared. And now that our kids, we've been in for 2 years now. And so our kids were 4 and 6 months old when he decided, hey, let's go camping in 2 months in Bakersfield.
Yeah, Ripley's first war, she was 6 months old.
Yeah. And my
That's where I met her.
Yeah. My response was just like, what I'm doing right now is raising small children, and that is all that I can handle. So I really did think that he was crazy, but also we desperately needed something in our lives. We needed community. We had been searching for it, and there's a lot of places where children aren't welcome. You can bring your kids as long as they behave. And I'm like, okay, well, I won't bring my kids then, because they're kids. So
it's even a little questionable, when I want to take like the whole family and go to court, and Wyatt's running around in circles, and people are like, shh. I'm like, maybe we can't.
Don't listen to those people. They're fine. They can come with me. I'll take Wyatt and we'll run around the thrones. I promise nobody will yell at us. It'll be great.
Right. I'm going to tell Wyatt just to tell people he knows Rosie.
Yeah, no, do that. He'll be fine. He'll be set. No problems whatsoever. I will hook him up.
So all these things that we've done with our life, they have found a place in the SCA. It's like we wish that we had found it sooner. We wish we'd stayed in 10 years ago, because where would we be,
Yeah, we just kind of plugged into it because, our interests and the things that we do, it's just like, this is just where we should have been. And I've kind of danced around it. I remember being 16 years old and going out with my buddies to a coffee shop every night. And on Thursday nights, there was these guys that would run around in the parking structure next to the coffee shop and hit each other with shenais. And, and we would go out and we would play with those guys. And I had no clue like who they were or what they were doing. And then I heard them say, oh, these guys are all SCA guys. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And we just go hit them with sticks. But like, I didn't, we've always kind of gravitated around the thing, but never really like, gone down the drain until now. So, and it's just the more involved we get, the more in love we fall in with it. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
That you guys actually, funny enough, answered my next question, because before coming to this podcast, before inviting you, I happened to be your friend. Weirdly enough, I knew that you guys met the SCA 10 years ago and then left and came back. And so I was going to ask you, like, what brought you back? But you answered it with the community. And I'm actually, like, I really like that answer, because right now we're having a little bit of a struggle with that, because we don't really get to be around each other, and there's only so much that you can do across the internet and across the screen. It's one of the big reasons why I started doing this, was because while everybody can talk on Facebook or on email or on whatever, it's different being face to face. So that's one of the big things that I've been doing, is bringing everybody's faces to other people's screens, because this way I know that there are people who haven't met you that I know who are going to watch this, and then secretly they're going to know you, and it's funny and it's cool, and you are helping bring light and something smiley and something good to think of to other people. And I love that one of the big reasons that brought you guys back is community, because now, unbeknownst to you, because I asked you to come talk to me for an hour, you're helping me spread that. So I love that. Secretly already knowing my values. How dare you?
Yeah, we want to meet everybody and learn everything from everyone, and it's kind of crazy.
You have no idea. It's, oh man. It's even just doing this show that I've been doing for I think at this point in recording I've been doing it for a month, but when this comes out I will have been doing it for 2 months. And it really is just like sort of exploding, and it's reaching people in ways I wasn't expecting it to. So I love that. I'm about the community. And speaking of community, what is it really like raising 2 kids in the SCA? So I have been a child in the SCA in the past. However, that many years ago, it was totally fine for me to just run around and be everywhere all the time, because the biggest events were pretty much the size of our day events now. And now I might be over exaggerating, but like the Great Western War that I grew up in was in Chino, like across the like street, basically. It was at Prado. Yeah, it was at Prado. And I don't remember it being as big as it is now. So what's it like currently raising a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old?
Well, we love that there are things that Wyatt can be involved in. Wyatt's 6, and he is old enough to do combat. He's finding things where he is valued and interested, so that's good. I do have to say that our 2 wars that we have been to have been really challenging for us. So, because of personal, so the first war,
to put it mildly, challenging.
Understatement of the century.
Okay.
Yeah, if you know what happened last year, it was, But
instead of going into the details of all the stress, what I can say is, so we've been to 3 wars. We've been to Highland 10 years ago, and we didn't have kids then. But at that war, we had terrible equipment. It got destroyed by the wind, and people came out of the woodwork to rescue us. Someone had a tent for us. Someone had a meal to set up for us, and someone came to our aid without even knowing us, And so then at our first war, we didn't know anybody. We brought a 6-month-old. We had a tent, we had a bed, we had food. We've been camping before, but it had been so long, never with children. And the people who came to our rescue, like the Barony of Drybergen is amazing. Our Baron and Baroness are amazing people who really do truly, honestly value and love their people and our children. So we haven't had people around us who genuinely care about our family. So raising children is difficult. If you want to, raising children is difficult. Raising kids in the SCA is also challenging because we're trying to balance our interests, and we want to do all the things, we want to do everything, and it's like a trade-off of, okay, who gets to go and do what? Who's going to watch the kids while we do it? But then there are people who are becoming our family, which is something that we've never had in our personal life, who are willing to help us and support us. So I guess there's lots of answers. It's really challenging to have kids in the SCA, but it is also they're part of it. We're working on YAFA achievements. So there are things that we can work on with our kids to where it's valuable to them too. We're not just dragging them around to events. And I became the youth officer for the Benehonig of Drybergen so that I could attract children to play with my kid because he needs someone to interact with. And I take him to events, and if there are no kids, well, then he just wants to interact with me. But, if I'm there hosting youth activities, the kids are going to come to the table and he's going to meet people and make new friends. And then look, he just made a buddy.
Well, he's just getting to that age now where he can start participating. He just turned 6 a couple months ago, so now he can start doing all the combat for real and archery and throwing weapons and all that stuff and start competing and doing everything. And it really, I was kind of surprised to see him the first time he did combat, how special that was to me. I've been watching all these people do combat and stuff. I think it's really cool. But then when you see your own kid do it, it's I can't really explain it. It really makes you feel proud and happy, and I was the first time at Drybergen anniversary this year.
Yeah.
When he put on his helmet and his sword and his shield that I had made him, and he went out and was fighting with Caesar and the other kids. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off doing all kinds of stuff, for the event. But then I got to see
everything.
my kid, 20 feet away doing combat, and I was like, wow, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it all worth it. When he got his acorn, it was like, I didn't even know they were going to do that. And that just kind of, I was like, we were standing in the back of court, and they call him up, and we're like, did they just call our kid up in court?
We're in the very back because our kids are loud, and so we want to see court, but we're trying to do it from a respectable distance. And then they call him up, and he doesn't even wait. He just like bolts, he just charges.
And I ran after him like, oh shit! No, wait! You need an escort or something. Like you can't just go charging up there. Like, oh my god, you don't know the protocol to this.
The king and queen demand my presence. Well, they shall have it.
Yeah,
he's 6. He was all about it.
Dude.
Oh, it was the best. I love that. I got to be there for his acorn, and it was precious because he really did just come. I didn't even see him, and then I hear them calling him, and he just appeared, like he materialized out of nowhere. And Jeff is like, oh no. And everybody's like, no, he needs to own it. That little man is so helpful and so everywhere all the time. He deserved every ounce of that. The king is calling me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really likes to go up there, and he's really kind of fallen into it. And I think when he's engaged, he's really having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
When he's engaged in what's going on, he really digs it, and that gets me excited.
That's good.
Well, sorry. Something we love about the SBA is like everybody matters, even our 6-year-old. And like to say that kind of shows, sorry.
Don't be.
But no. But we need more people in our life who are recognizing and caring about even the smallest members of our life, like our 2-year-old and our 6-year-old, who are often just kind of on the sideline, but he is valuable. And to see other people recognize how wonderful our children are and how precious, and it's really good for us. It gives us good memories and gives us life to see our children be involved.
That's special to us, but it's really good for the SCA to do that, because this kid is probably going to be in it for life. When he gets that, that engagement that early on, he's probably going to stick with it and be a member at like 40, 45, 50 years old.
So coming from somebody who has been a 6-year-old in the SCA, I did not know that this was not something. I literally would compare the SCA to like going to church. Now, when I was a child, I didn't really understand what religion was. So I didn't like compare it to church and that like this is a religion. I compared it to church because all of my friends, who most of them grew up Catholic, went to church every weekend. And I didn't go to church, but I went to the SCA every weekend. So it's like church, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
You don't want to go and your parents drag you along and you're like, okay, I'm just
here. And then I'm there and I have fun. It's a thing that we do every weekend. It's just how it goes. So it's super, that's something that I talked with my sister-in-law about, who also has a almost 2-year-old. She's 18 months right now. And we talked about what it's going to be like to have a kid in the SCA, and how now it's a little bit different than it used to be. But I grew up with 15 aunts and uncles that I didn't know weren't actually my aunts and uncles until I was an actual adult. and then that's the same sort of camaraderie that you guys are talking about. Is it's a big group, everybody matters, and the kids especially. We have to make sure that while we're trying to keep the recruitment of our adults and our teenagers and that kind of thing, that's a very core group we need to focus on. But that doesn't negate the fact that there are now younger members who are having kids and who are stepping away because they feel like their kids are a burden. And working a bunch of different staff with a bunch of different kings and queens and barons and baronesses and other assorted royalty, I guess I'll say, every single one of them makes a point to address the children. I worked with, I watched a thing that happens out in the West where they have like a toy run where the youngest knight, so the member of the Shiv who was knighted the last, picks up this big toy box and runs, and all the kids chase him. And as soon as you catch him, you get a toy from the toy box. And that's just a brilliant way to get the kids engaged. And I've seen you create activities like, not quite like that, but I've watched you, what did we create that one Highland where it was 1,000 degrees? Was it dream catchers with the little stones?
Yeah, we did.
That was really fun. Yeah.
And at that, Ram had built some kid games, like an archery game, because you have the captain of the archers here for Drybergen. So he created an archery game that's a dragon with plexi. He drew it out, and then we painted it, and then he put plexiglass over it, and we have suction cup arrows. So the kids can stand, and they're practicing archery, and they're getting into archery, and they're also playing a game.
I'm trying to start them early.
And that's how you do it.
I need archers. I need more archers. So
and that's how you do it. That's how you do it. I love it. And speaking of starting early, what would you like the SCA to look like when Wyatt and Ripley are 40 and 45? Or what would it be? 42 and 45? How old are they apart? 3 years?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years apart. Yeah.
Damn, that's a good question.
I know. That's mom. Mom did that.
So 35 years from now, what do we want the SCA to look like?
Geez, I don't know.
Well, I think, like, my experience is just at war, like, already the SCA is a really inclusive environment. And I have heard stories of it not being so much, but in my experience, I have seen it be inclusive and a place where so many different people find a place. And so right now, the SCA is already like what I want the world to be, like the kind of acceptance and the kind of inclusion for different types of people. And so more of that.
Yeah, it seems like we're heading in these directions, with the inclusion officers and things like that. So if we just keep heading that direction, I think everything will be good. I can't think of anything that I would want to change about it because, we've been in for 2 years and we're still just like, wow, this is amazing. So ask me that question in 10 years, when I've come across some things and made some opinions and I've decided about things that I don't like, but I think we're From what we see, it's like, wow, it's heading in these directions, and it's awesome the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
It would be good if there were, I mean, there are things for kids to do. They do have youth points, and they do have, the offer program is awesome. I would like to see more participation in the offer program. I want to see more people with kids. They're playing with our kids, and more, youth combat, more kids doing archery. When I'm out on the archery range and I see kids doing thrown weapons and archery, it's like I get so excited, because it's awesome when you see like a 10-year-old kid wants to do archery. It just really like lights my fire. So I think it's really important, that we keep pushing, and getting the kids involved, and make sure that the younger people are engaged.
Mm.
That's the future.
That is the future. Like literally, it's the future. You gotta make sure that the kids are having just as much fun as you are. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to see all of the other fun that they don't get to see when they're kids. It's one of those interesting things. So there are three of us in this house, three kids, technically four, but I'm talking about these three. Um, and each one of us were raised in the SEA. Each one of us went to all of the events, but the twins ended up having, they didn't have as early of a start as I did, because you can't really do a whole lot when you have a 5-year-old and twin infants.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting to see the different levels of interest that the three of us have in the SEA. My little brother uh, comes to SEA events kicking and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Not less screaming now, more just like, oh, I'm going to be helpful and then sit in the shade.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my little sister comes and goes as she wants. She holds an office in our barony. She is active up she's active. She does lots of stuff. She's super helpful. She works on reins and with bearings and with baronies, and she does a lot of stuff, but she doesn't come to every single event. And then you have me, where I probably go to more SEA events than my parents do now. Which, I mean, isn't saying much. It's like I go to 4 events a month and they go to 3 events a month. But it's very interesting to see the different activity levels, because my parents have been playing since the early 90s. I don't exactly remember. Maybe even earlier than that, because I think my mom was 17 when she started. Whatever, I don't remember. And I think that it really does come from the fact that when I was little, the youth program was much more consistent, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I think we're coming out of a period of, there really haven't been a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of babies, and then a lot of teenagers, but not a lot of people who are, or not a lot of kids in the age range of youth activities. But now that a lot of the second generation kids my age, I guess people my age, are having kids now. So, and then we're hitting the next wave of youth, which, just like most things, like there's rises and falls in the youth numbers and in the people who are bringing their kids in. And I'm hoping that now that we have a lot of people, or a lot of kids who are Wyatt's age, who are just hitting 6, and who are now coming into you are old enough to understand that you should not stab someone in the eye if they're not wearing a helmet. And now he gets to stab people in the eye with a helmet on, like if he wants, except he can't because there's no headshots in youth anymore. But I love that. I love the idea that fostering the kids is really what we need to be. We need to have more, maybe not like, I don't know, there needs to be more activities for kids. I remember when I was a kid that I was doing youth stuff constantly. At every single event, it was youth activities, youth combat. But that was back in the day when now Duchess Bridget and Sir Kuma were in charge of activities here in Kaid. And that's what we did, is it was just youth stuff all the time. But maybe I was a youth, so that's why I think that. I agree, though. There should be more youth activities.
Well, like the YAFA program is awesome. So I think that there is just what the YAFA leader, what's his name? Alzon? Their name? What that person needs is people who are fired up to carry on what they are doing. Like I am a youth officer and I want to be really involved and really engaged, but I'm also a parent of young children. And so then you have to get people under you. So it all exists as a system of people supporting one another. You have a very active Baroness, but if she doesn't have the people underneath her who are helping her do all the work, then there are things that are going to fall to the side because this person can't do everything. So every office needs support. So, right now there's a call for deputies, and it's like, maybe, there's cycles of people having children and the age of the people, and then there's also cycles of involvement and people being involved. And I think what it feels like to us as we're coming out of a period where Drybergen wasn't as active, and we don't have a big picture of the SCA as a whole. We have just like this really small picture because we play locally. But people getting involved and people stepping into those roles, and like if you have every position filled all the way down the chain, then you're going to have all of these programs kicking ass, like people stepping into deputy positions to support the officers. And like I have someone who wants to step into the deputy youth officer position, which is awesome, so yes, finding people to fill all those roles to give those things life. Something I hear a lot about is burnout. And as a new person, like people accuse us of having helium hand, like volunteering for everything, and like, yeah.
Warning us not to burn out and slow down, take it easy.
And we do get a little bit burnt out, but I think what we experienced 10 years ago, and occasionally now, but not as much, because our focus is more directed now that we have children, and we can't go off and do all these crazy things. We need to kind of chill out and pick a few things that we're involved in. But oh yeah, sure, I need more wine.
Wine will fix that.
Yeah, having a focus and a direction, and having people to support. Take over.
How about I ask you a different question really quick? Because you mentioned something about being, about going off and doing all the crazy things. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, you guys do a lot of crazy stuff, but crazy in the best and most inspirational way. You guys literally hit the ground running. And would you consider yourself newbies 2 years in?
No.
And an officer?
No, because we had been doing a lot of these things before we came into it. And that was why the door was so open, because, like brewing and doing, the yogurt and we'd already been doing a lot of things that could have easily been applied to the SCA. And that's why we just plugged right into it, because it's you get into it and it's like, oh, well, people do this and I already know how to do that. And I've been doing that for a couple of years. It was just kind of coincidental. I don't want to say coincidental, because it's just like, this was where we should have been, but we were like way over here doing it.
The stars aligned.
Yeah, we were doing SCA stuff, not being in the SCA. And then that's why we just like plugged into it so easily, because I mean, a lot of things we were doing, and some things we weren't. But it was really easy just to jump into it and cross over from our normal life to SEA life. It was just like, oh, there's just more things to do and more people to learn from and more people that are interested in what you're doing. And that's why it was easy to just connect there, and get into it.
Yeah.
We're definitely involved in a lot of the activities, and because that's an easy way for us to plug in, we're always interested in trying something. Like, don't mention you're interested in learning how to do something, because this guy will make it in a week, and like you can come over and you can do it.
It's correct.
But I think I'm trying to learn how I am valuable among like this sea of people who do a lot of research and are very scholarly, and I'm a doer, and trying to find how the way I do things is also valuable. You can be a researcher and a doer, or you can just be a doer. So I like to make sourdough, and I like to ferment, and I like to garden, and I like to sew. And I like to do all of these things because the doing gives me life and is valuable to me. And I want to share those things. We love the SEA because it's like free school. Everybody wants to share everything that they have learned. You can learn anything. It's amazing that everyone wants to share all of this knowledge, and that every person at every level is valuable. So I can teach a class on like fermenting without knowing all the history behind it, because it can be filled in by somebody else. So there's a lot of it can be intimidating to meet a lot of the people who are peers, um, because I don't know if what I'm doing is as valuable as what they are doing, and all the knowledge that they can contribute, where I'm more practical. I can teach you how to do something, but I might not tell you why it works that way. I can teach you how to make bread. I might not be able to tell you the science behind it, but making bread itself is valuable.
I promise you she can do that. She taught me how to make bread over miniature video clips, because I made it by myself once and it was very not correct. So it's correct. She can definitely teach you how to make bread.
Yeah,
So
peer fear is a real thing, but I, I'm teaching a class at Collegium just because I know how to do this thing, and I didn't realize how valuable that thing was and how many people are interested in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the thing about teaching. It's like, doesn't matter what you can teach it, because there's going to be a bunch of people out there that have been doing something else and they want to learn about that. And it's really easy to get people into a classroom. So
Yeah.
it's a lot. It was surprising to me how easy it is to fall into teaching classes. And now 2 years into it, we know a little bit of stuff, and that little bit of stuff, there's still people that want to learn how to do that. And it's like making mead. I had never made mead before. 6 months in the SCA, I learned how to make a gallon of mead. I've made like 5 or 6 different gallons now, and I want to teach a class on it. Because I've gotten it down to a science, and it's just so easy to do. I'm excited about it, and I get to show you how to do that real quick in like 20 minutes.
That's
And
amazing.
there's a lot of people that would just line up and go, "Hey, I'll take that class." So
Also, having it online makes it much easier, like way more accessible. So that probably also helps a lot. But you brought up a very interesting point. So a lot of the people that I've had on my show, um, we've talked about peer fear, or the concept of peers being unapproachable. However, you guys are, at least in my eyes, the first people who have brought up the concept of peer fear as not peers. So I've gotten a lot of the other side of like what a peer is saying, like, just come talk to me, I'm just a human, like all that other thing. But it's hard to compare that when you're on the other side. And I don't feel like my views of peer fear are the most common. because I've been doing it for so long. So my question to you guys is, what do you, how would you guys, hold on. What can peers do to be less intimidating?
Well, I think it's unfair to say that just by existing peers are intimidating. I think I have benefited the most from meeting Laurels when I'm at an event where that person is sharing their knowledge and coming up and asking you questions is really intimidating to me. I'm not going to go on the Laurel hunt because I seriously have, what is it, celebrity fright. Like can I mention names? Like I met Gwen Pettis once. I didn't know that I was meeting Gwen at the time. I was just at Collegium and I was sitting on a bench and I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to this person because I'm kind of antisocial and I'm kind of weird. So I'm going to turn to this person and I'm going to talk to them about my project. So I turned to this person sitting next to me and I shared what I was working on. I was working on an Egyptian necklace and asking her, what do you think about this? And how would you approach this? And she walked me through how she would approach researching that project. And at the end, I was like, I don't know your name. And she told me who she was. And I was like, oh, you're famous. Because it was Gwen here. Yeah. It was Gwen Tennis. And she turned red and she just, no. But like, and then I met Paul Tevis also at Paul Dennis at the Brewers, what's it called?
Walking the Boards?
Walking the Boards, which is an event that happened at our house. And so I was intimidated because I had seen his face before and wanted to meet him. And every time we'd be walking and we'd make eye contact and then I would veer off the path because I couldn't just walk up and make conversation with a stranger. It's hard to do that. It's hard to do that.
Of course.
But at Walking the Boards, you have an environment where they are in their element. And over here, someone's talking about wine, and someone's talking about beer making, but someone was talking about cheese. And I watched him zone in on that conversation and zip over there. And then you could learn from that person without being in their direct line of sight, which is intimidating. And you get to know the person and learn from them without having to be one-on-one. So attending more events where they are teaching and where they're just like in the wild at an event with lots of stimulating things happening and you have to hear them talk. Like Paul talking about cheese. It was great.
Have you heard Paul talk about wine?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yes.
The first time
I
heard
like an hour-long conversation with Paul about coin making.
Oh, yeah. I bet you.
I'm Walking the Boards.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked.
It's
that
not
man,
hard to like
wonderful.
engage these people. They're just fountains of knowledge, and a lot of people are like that. Even if they're not morals, there's a lot of people in the SCA. They just know so much because they've been in it for 5, 6, 7, 10 years,
50.
20 years, 50 years. And, they're just like amazing fountains of knowledge. And I have so much respect for that I think the respect is where the intimidation comes from. Like, I remember the first time, like, what was it? I was like, I met, Carol's name.
Carolyn.
Sita.
No.
Oh,
Sarah, yeah.
Sierra, yeah.
Yeah, Sarah. And I was like, wow, I'm like face to face, like talking with the queen, like in a casual conversation, and I felt kind of awkward. And then she hands me this cup, and she's like, I was holding this Kroll cup, and we were talking about our cups, and she hands me this cup out, and I'm like, she's like, that's the king's cup, and I was like, oh shit. And I froze up. I'm like, I'm holding the king's cup. Like, this is like, I don't want to break it. I don't, I kind of like freaked out for a minute there. And she's like, don't freak out. It's, it's no big deal. But just that whole thing, like, like she said, like celebrities, there's people like Bridget and Paul and, there's people that are just, everybody knows who they are and they're all over the place. And, with us, we're seeing a lot of this stuff because we have kids. We do a lot of stuff and a lot of learning on social media.
Mhm.
And, you know, these people are like famous in the SCA. And it's not the knowledge that's intimidating, it's how well known they are, you know, and you're like, oh my God, I'm in the presence of greatness. And that's, I think, where the intimidation comes from, at least for us, you know?
Well, also
So
being
go.
new,
Yeah.
being new, what could I know that could be of value? There's this feeling of there's so many people who know so much more than I do. What could I know that could possibly be valuable? And we have people around us who are pushing us saying, no, 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 what you have is valuable. And they can speak from their own experience. Like uh, Halbers will talk about how he taught a brewing class, and it was one of his first brewing classes. And he went into his class, and there were laurels in the audience, and he was so intimidating. He still taught his class, and one of the laurels raised their hand and asked him a question, and he was like, his heart was about beating out of his chest, and he answered the question, and it turned out that the laurel had never considered doing it that way and had learned something from this new person teaching the class on beer making to a laurel who had their laurel in brewing, you know. So we've been encouraged that every person, including us as new people, has something to offer, but it's intimidating to think like, but I'm new and my garb is terrible and I you know I'm making this thing for the first time. What could I contribute? So maybe if the laurels pursued you, I want to be hunted by a
Yeah, if the
laurel.
laurels hunted the new people, you know, that'd be great. If you know, you
It's like
walked
a
around wearing like
headhunter.
a white hood or something, you know, something that signified you as a new person, you know, and
That's
they would hunt you down.
hilarious.
That'd be awesome
Oh my goodness.
and terrifying.
I mean, I've met some feisty laurels. They'll come get you. So careful what you wish for. Because I've seen the stuff that you make. I see the stuff that you cook and brew. Just watch out, miss. Watch out. That's how you get connections and meet people, and then hunting does happen. I've seen them. Seen them a
Well,
lot.
I think a lot of these things are happening, like classes, and or we're not able to expose ourselves a lot because we have kids, and so there's lots of classes happening, and we can't attend them, you know.
Yeah.
But I would love to attend like Baron Bjorn's Bardic classes that are happening at Collegium. So there's lots of things that we want to be involved in.
We want to do all the things, but
But
you
kids,
know, we have the kids, but you know, when as the kids start to get older and they start to get into their things, you know, then
Maybe you'll be a baron
we'll
and
have
baroness.
more.
maybe 10 years down the road.
That's what I meant when the kids were all grown. That's what my parents did.
Yeah.
All of us. Well, I mean, except for the twins, they were only like mostly grown. Because I think they were still in school when they stepped up, but I don't remember. Okay, so we've talked a lot about teaching and the things that you guys are interested in, the stuff that you like. So you both are insanely talented. What is one thing that you currently don't know how to do, but you wish you did? SEA related.
Pewtering. That's something that a lot of people seem to know how to do, and I've never touched it.
Is it specifically pewter or just like metalworking in general?
No, no. I mean, I have some experience, you know, in silversmithing, and that's why I'm like, I should have done pewter at some point, but for some reason I never touched it. And
Yeah.
and it's a huge thing in the SCA. So many people like have made, you know, site tokens or, you know, belt buckles or whatever out of pewter, and I've never, for some reason, I've never touched that. It's on my list. You know, I have a big list of things that I want to do, and that just seems like something that I should have done at some point, but never did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I want to do.
It's fun, but be careful it splashes. One time, Brandon and I were helping finish site tokens for Great Western War the year that they were pewter. And if you're not very careful, Pewter just decides that it wants to leap out of the spoon and land on clothing. So just watch out. Pewter has the mind of its own. All right, Kungund, what about you?
Yeah. I dabble in a lot of things. I know a little about a lot, but I don't know a lot about any one thing. But I would really like to know more about medieval cooking, and attend like a cook's play date and learn about cooking in clay pots. I want to learn more about medieval cooking.
From what time period?
Oh,
Or just like all of them?
Being able to cook in camp and do it in a period style. It could be any period, any part of the period.
Have you met Mistress Colette?
I don't think
That's
so.
Carol Ann?
Yeah, Carol Ann.
Yeah.
I've met her. I've talked to her.
I was talking to Kungund because Kungund is gonna have to see her cook her camp setup. I think I watched that woman cook. Oh man, what was that? So many sausages. I think it was like 57 sausages on her cook stove at a Great Western War. All period. Everything. It's crazy. I'll have to introduce you. She's pretty amazing. She's
amazing.
a sausage Laurel.
Yeah, she is the one that gave us the recipe to make the sausages for Dryburgh anniversary this year.
Oh.
Those were so good. Yeah. No, I have put all of that, all of the meat in my mouth. All of it's happened. Not gonna lie. She's amazing.
But the first event I think that we went to when we came back was Cast Iron Chef in Liondomere. And she was competing out there. There's a couple other people competing, and that was crazy.
Yeah.
That Cast Iron Chef in Liondomere was nuts.
I've never been to that event.
We haven't gone since, I don't think.
Oh, we haven't been to another one of those. No, but that was our first event when we came back, and seeing all the period cooking.
2 years ago, yeah, that was like the first event that we went to, because I was like, okay, what's the next event we're going to? Okay, boom, that one. We're going. And we got in the car, we took the kids, and we went out there, and it was rough, but that was awesome. We didn't know anyone, we're just kind of like walking around, the wings, just kind of, trying to like interact with people, and it was like awkward because we knew like no one in Liondomere.
Of course.
Well,
that's a good one though.
That was a good event. That was a really good one. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, being stuck, well, I don't want to say stuck, but being at camp when you're at war, I want to have as much of the war experience or as a time out of time experience as I can. So if I'm in camp, I would like to be cooking in a period fashion safely with my children, but I'm at camp a lot because we have the kids. So things that can help me have that experience and not just be camping in Bakersfield in October.
You should definitely. So I'll have to introduce you and show you next time. We're all able to get together. But did you guys get a chance to visit Cooking Row or whatever it was called at Great West this past year? Where one of the days, literally for the whole day while the light was out, there was a different person cooking in where headquarters is at Great Western War, like across the way from that in the arts and sciences area. And there had like this whole thing set up, and like it was like, I think it was actually like a stone built like stove type thing. It was amazing.
I can hear you, but okay.
There I am. I froze. I'm sorry. What was the last thing you guys heard?
We heard it all.
Oh, okay.
But we couldn't see you very well.
I could not hear you guys.
Yeah, so was that Cook's play date or was that something else? It
was something else. Because that was Cook's play date happens every year. This was something that only happened last year. And it's just like basically somebody from whatever camp that was that built all that stuff came up and was just like basically cooking for their camp, but anybody could come and watch and ask them questions and talk to them about what they were doing and how they were managing it for however many people they were cooking for, and like all that kind of thing. And it was basically like a Q&A with a chef for whatever meal they were cooking at the time.
Yeah, basically last year Great Western was kind of a wash.
That's right. I forgot. Great Western for last year was rough.
we were kind of quarantined, and then anytime that I got away, I was, volunteering down at the archery range. So I pretty much went to archery range and camp and like Merchants Row a couple times, and that was pretty much all of the whole war.
Yeah, sick babies make things hard.
What is Carol Ann's name? SEA name?
Colette.
Mistress Colette. So
Mistress Colette.
I have seen the way that she cooks on broken terracotta pots. And I haven't had a chance to ask her about it, but I'm collecting broken terracotta pots because I know they're valuable for cooking.
She would have a field day hearing that you remember that. I really hope that all the people that we've talked about tonight have seen or are going to see this episode, because it really does. It's going to make all of them feel warm and fuzzy inside, because all of the people that you've talked to are people that I know, or that you talked about tonight are people that I know, and who also who I've heard at least once say things like, why is what I have to say valuable? So everybody starts there, and everybody still, no matter what peerage they have or what station they have or whatever, everybody has those feelings and everybody has those days. And if I can connect dots between my friends, I'm going to do it. So I'm absolutely going to be that connection where you may not want to chase a laurel and a laurel may not know that they're wanted, but I do. And I will connect dots. I'm about that. So this is going to be my, I have 2 questions left. This next one, since we've been talking about cooking, for a lot of this, what is the most interesting or unique thing that you currently have in your fridge?
I have a Christmas sauerkraut that I made last Christmas.
I think we have. No. What's the weirdest thing you have in your fridge, I guess, is my sentence. I think we have white potatoes cut into spears, soaking in vinegar in our fridge.
Yeah, potatoes.
That was the strange ingredients contest. Do we have the cultured butter still? No.
No, we have lots of experiments growing in our refrigerator. So we have lots of living organisms.
Way too many things growing in our kitchen.
We got into sprouting, so we have sprouts. We have milk kefir. We have
like 17 different kinds of things sprouting.
Sauerkraut. Yeah.
Sauerkraut. We had the butter. I think we either ate it or got sick of it.
So I think it was a year ago, maybe more. I, once upon a time, secretly participated in the brewing in our barony. And we had strange ingredients, and it was like mint, like spearmint and chili, maybe. Oh no, it was molasses. It was mint and molasses. And I made a tea, or in the historic thing, it was a serum. And I think that there's still a mason jar of that in my fridge. I wouldn't ingest it, but it's there.
Still food?
It's definitely there. It's a science experiment. But yeah, that's also how I learned that if you don't watch molasses while it's cooking, it explodes.
Oh my.
And also does not come out of the stove. So I do not recommend leaving your molasses unattended.
Yeah, molasses and tar are like really close to each other on the periodic scale.
Yeah, and then when it explodes, it's like the worst. And I didn't know that I'm not a science human, but like I'm pretty sure that the molasses multiplied in the 85 seconds that it was cooking.
Like
It
one
was
of those snakes that they used to have, the fire.
yes, that when you light them, they make it get exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, nope, that's exactly what happened.
No.
All over our kitchen.
No.
There was molasses under our. I think there might still be molasses on our stove somewhere. It's like every time I clean the kitchen, it's like, oh, somehow there's still molasses that I didn't find last time I took the stove out of its spot. Whatever.
It's like the nexus. Fern gully
Okay,
kids.
Jeff, are you ready for the most serious question?
Hit me.
Is a hot dog a sandwich? Why or why not?
Yes.
I think no. Why do you think yes?
Well, because it's meat inside a casing.
Well, meat inside.
But isn't that a sausage?
Oh wait, are we talking about a hot dog with bread?
Yeah, a
Or are
hot
we just talking
dog.
about the link?
Nope, a hot
Yes,
dog
a sandwich.
with bread.
Anything in between two slices of bread is a sandwich.
All I hear is you guys laughing. I must be frozen.
Yeah, the internet does not want to hear your argument.
Ugh.
But I
Just
do.
give me 5 more minutes, internet. 5 more minutes.
I want to hear it.
Okay, I do not believe a hot dog is a sandwich because the hot dog bun is only able to be used as a hot dog bun. There aren't really other purposes for a hot dog bun. Not like it's like a French roll or sliced bread or even like a regular hamburger bun. I would say a hot dog is not a sandwich because the bread is too unique to a hot dog. Just like a corn dog isn't a sandwich.
No way. You know what I had for lunch this afternoon?
A hot dog.
A hot dog bun, and I put cheese and avocado and a bunch of sprouts in it. And that's what I had for lunch this afternoon. I made a sandwich with a hot dog bun. I kid you not.
But you made a sandwich with a hot dog bun. You didn't make a sandwich. You had to specify that you made it with a hot dog bun. So I think that makes it unique.
I got to do what I got to do, you know?
Yeah, of course. No, you can make a sandwich out of anything. I put 2 pieces of cheese together and put some meat in it. That's a sandwich. But I don't think a hot dog is a sandwich. I think a hot dog is too unique. So on that note, because I would like to be right, mwahahaha. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a wonderful time. I think that this video is going to get is going to connect with a lot of people. So thank you so much for taking the time with your children being your children, with your work schedule, with it being 10 p.m. in recording time. I appreciate the time that you were willing to donate and to participate in this silly project that I have to entertain myself during quarantine and beyond, because I'm going to be doing this until we get back to in-person events, so that I can continue to bring wonderful faces like yours to everybody in the known world and whoever else wants to watch it. So thank you so much for joining me, you guys. It means a lot.
Well, thanks for having us. I hope we were interesting.
Absolutely. More than.
I'm glad you're doing this.
Me too. I'm having a great time, and from what I'm hearing in the feedback, it seems to be reaching the people that I want it to reach, and that's all I could ask for. If I can make one person laugh, I've done what I wanted. That's all. That's it.